The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individuals participating in the show. All persons described or mentioned in the podcast should be considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This podcast contains subject matter such as violence and graphic descriptions along with adult language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
On September 5th, 1982, sometime between the hours of 6 a.m. and 7 a.m., a young man picks up his papers to be delivered. He is seen by witnesses speaking to a man in an unidentified car. He disappears, even with the boy being featured on milk cartons. A supposed event in 1997 makes this one of the strangest disappearances of all time. You're listening to the Mysterious Brews podcast, and tonight we bring you the case of John David Gosch.
West Des Moines, Iowa, 1982. 12-year-old Johnny Gosch has a Sunday morning paper route. Until one morning, he vanishes.
A young boy delivering newspapers, which every God-fearing American kid wants to do, ends up disappearing.
As the search for Johnny unfolds, a terrifying theory emerges.
They were kidnapping and selling children.
Welcome to a deep, dark, dank, moist basement somewhere in the bowels of Georgia. Well, Coach, when this episode drops, it will be our 6th year, starting our 6th year.
That's insane, bro.
Know it, man.
Who would have guessed? I thought we'd do like 10 episodes and give it up because nobody would listen. But
Kicking off year 6 with a biggin.
Yeah.
A biggin. It's a big old biggin.
Yeah.
So,
this is probably one of the most famous cases we've covered. This has got to be top 20 most famous cases of all time.
Agreed.
Especially in America. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I agree. Man.
I mean, there's no way. There's no way it's not.
I would say that West Memphis 3, and then Boys on the Tracks.
I mean, we're talking John Benet Ramsey. We're talking.
Yeah, we ain't done that.
Boys on the Tracks. We're talking Maura Murray.
Yeah.
Talking.
I would say it's top 10.
I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, we're talking heavy hitters, man.
Yeah.
Like this is a big one.
So we're kind of ahead of schedule. So when we're recording this, Boys on the Track Part 2 just dropped.
Yeah, we're actually getting ahead. We're getting ahead rather than doing it the Sunday before the Tuesday release.
I know. So, little after brews thing here, just to give y'all a kind of a catch up. We have, as most of you know, a lot of people that follow us in the great state of Arkansas. And so,
which we love each and every one of them.
Yes,
and
we
proud
do.
We are of all of them.
I do believe that Peace Cat recommended that we do this probably year 1. And so she's hung in. And so year 6 or year 5, we did it. But anyway, the Miss Winford has championed the cause. She wants us to circle back and do a Mena, Arkansas episode on Barry Seal. That'll be a good one.
I'm telling you, man, they're clamoring for certain things to be covered, and we're just not.
We can steer clear of the what we need to steer clear.
About trying them because
we can steer clear and still tell the story.
Man still has. He's dead, and he still strikes fear in the heart of people.
That is true. Yeah,
he's dead, and people are like, "Nah, man, I ain't." You guys do it. I want you to do it, but don't mention me.
I'm like, we can't do it if we can't use everybody's story. I guess we're gonna have to do Sheriff Baker with just
speak his name.
Anonymous 1, Anonymous 2, Anonymous 3, and then take out all references to gender. So that way nobody knows anything.
Anonymous listener number 1 said,
So Miss Winford said that she would love for us to do the Mena, Arkansas one. And then Miss Fowler said that she goes, I'm not sure if y'all have found in your research or not that Dan Harmon's nephew is our current sheriff. And I said, get the fuck out of here. And she said, you cannot make this stuff up.
well, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. If you hear a weird crunching sound in the background, that is my dog munching on I don't even know what. But I have to give him something to keep him from biting me 24 hours a day. This dog is insane. I love him, but good God. I'm scarred up. I look like I've been running through briars and barbed wire and whatnot because this dog just will not stop biting. So if you have a dog and you've experienced biting constantly, I bought this dog 35 toys, 10 different types of treats, rawhide, bones to chew on. I mean, you name it, I've done it for this dog, and I cannot get him to stop biting. So please, if you're a dog lover, a dog owner, and you have any advice, please reach out to me. Sorry.
So while you were discussing that, Spotify's changed their way of commenting on our episodes. So way back on the Max Spears case, episode 198, they're now making me approve the comment. I guess if we get some shit ass comments, Christine Skubish episode, Summer Wells, Junie from Spotify says that we do need to bring back the beer of the week. Who doesn't like a new beer of the week?
Well, the problem is I mean, right now we could do it and it would be legit, but at times when we record on a Sunday and we have to work tomorrow, we would be lying.
That's true. So on the Angela Hammond disappearance episode, Carla Venois, I hope that is right, or Carl Lavenois, I don't know. Whatever. It's all one word. Says, can I just say I just found you yesterday and oh my God, where have you been? I love you guys. Thanks so much. Nova Scotia, Canada.
Nice.
Devin Williams, we had a comment. These are going way back.
Maybe you just don't know how to use Spotify, bro.
No, it literally, I upload the episodes as soon as I get through editing them and so I send it to our patrons and then I go ahead and upload it to Spotify and you can say when you want it to release it. So that way I don't have to be like, oh shit, I forgot to release the episode. But it was not there Sunday when I uploaded it.
Yeah.
And oh, you've got a 5-star review, so you wanted to read that before.
Of course I want to read the 5-star review.
Because it has you in it.
Coach is getting some love, bro. But unfortunately, you know how it is. Can't have it. But this is from Laura C. 1021. Haunted Lake Lanier. 5 stars. I stumbled upon you guys when I was looking into Haunted Lake Lanier podcast. As a Georgia native by way of Canton, I always enjoy hearing spooky Southern history and encourage y'all to feature more of it. Growing up with brothers, I appreciate the humor. Sending some podcast love from Charleston, South Carolina. P.S. Coach sounds hot.
Ooh.
I didn't pay for this. I didn't pay her. I didn't solicit any positive feedback like that, but let me tell you, I'll take it every day. Nothing helps like a good ego boost. You know what I'm saying?
I know it.
Especially since it took me two or 3 years to get used to hearing myself on this damn thing. I'd be like, oh.
I can't listen to her. After I record and edit, I cannot listen to the episodes. So.
Well, I do just to give us one listener. You know.
Oh, I still download them onto my podcast app. I just don't listen to them. I've heard it twice already.
I already did it twice. Why should I have to do this again?
All right. So for kicking off the new season, new year, whatever you want to call it.
Do we have seasons?
No, not really. I mean, I guess you could say, well, no, because we just keep rolling. Anyway, we're closing in on episode 250. 250.
250.
But anyway, so to kick this year's the new year off, anniversary, however you want to look at it, new season, what you want to call it. We're going to do the disappearance of Johnny Gosch. So John David Gosch was born on November the 12th, 1969. His parents were John Gosch Sr. and Noreen Gosch. Now, Noreen was born on August 17th, 1943 in Des Moines, Iowa. And you may be asking, why in the hell are you saying when the mom's born? Well, this lady is almost like a modern-day Job, if you keep up with the Bible. And I will explain further, but you'll get the picture when we get through it. But anyway, so Noreen got married right after high school and had a son and a daughter, not John Gosch Jr. Now, she was married the first time, and her husband was diagnosed with an incurable form of cancer after just 6 or 7 years of marriage. So to add insult to injury, just a few months after her husband's diagnosis, a tornado rips through Des Moines and destroys everything that Noreen and her husband had. And there's pictures that she has of the aftermath of that tornado, and it's just the only thing that's salvageable looks like her car. And then fast forward just 2 weeks later, and her husband would pass away. So Noreen's second marriage was to John Gosch Sr., and after a couple of years, the pair had a son, and this is Johnny Gosch Jr. Now, Johnny grew up in a very nice neighborhood in West Des Moines, and Noreen was now living the normal, picture-perfect American life in middle America. Johnny had a paper route in his neighborhood delivering the newspapers for the Des Moines Register and Tribune. She had her other two kids there. They were, middle to middle upper class, and things were going great. Now, Johnny had his paper route for about a year, and so within this time, he was able to save some money and purchased himself a dirt bike. And this was originally the whole reason he started his paper route, was to buy said dirt bike. Now, Johnny had his dirt bike, and he would enjoy riding it with his older brother, and there was some fields near the house, and so the pair would go out there and they would ride dirt bikes together. Now, the only problem with his route was that he had to work basically every day. And Sundays were the big days, because we're talking about 1982. Not everybody got the paper, but everybody got a Sunday paper, because we got the coupons and we got to sell.
You darn right, buddy. Let me tell you. I've been there.
Yes.
You buy 3 or 4 papers just to get the coupons.
Yep, a coupon. Now, it seemed that everyone on his route received a Sunday paper, and it would take him a lot longer to complete the route due to this. Now, on Saturday, September 4th, 1982, Noreen's daughter was visiting from college with her boyfriend. This would be Johnny's half-sister. Now, his half-brother that he rode dirt bikes with, Joe, was also off that evening, and so the whole family was together to enjoy dinner that evening. Now, Noreen now refers to that September 4th dinner as, quote, the Last Supper, because it would be the last time that everyone would be together. Now, around 9:30 p.m., Johnny tells Noreen and John Sr., his father, that he was going to go to bed because he had to get up earlier than usual to deliver the Sunday edition of the newspaper. Normally, on Sundays, his dad, John Sr., would help him with the deliveries due to the number of papers being delivered, as well as the weight of the Sunday edition. Now, before turning in for the night, Johnny asked his dad if it would be okay if he did the Sunday route by himself. Dad says sure, but Noreen was like, no, It is still dark, and the number of papers that you have to deliver is too great for you to try to do it on your own. Johnny doesn't argue, and he goes to bed. So on September 5th, 1982, this is Sunday morning, the next morning, at 5:30 a.m., Joe Gosch, Johnny's older half-brother, was heading to his job at the Village Inn. Now, the Village Inn is a restaurant located in the West Des Moines. I think it's downtown, to be honest with you. But before leaving, Joe knocked on Johnny's bedroom door and asked if he was getting up to start his route. Johnny replied yes, so Joe decided to head off to work, knowing that Johnny was indeed up. Joe drove a motorcycle and headed off to work, and normally Johnny would wake his dad up and tell him that it was time to go deliver the Sunday papers, but this morning, for whatever reason, Johnny did not wake up his dad.
Now the question is the perpetrators, do you think they were staking Johnny out?
I don't.
Specifically and purposely chose today? Or do you think just by some wild coincidence?
I think he was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and because his dad had helped him deliver every other Sunday route, unless they're thinking, well, see, now I was about to talk myself out of that, because if this was going to occur, if they had singled him out, this should have occurred on a Monday through Saturday, because he does those routes by himself.
Okay, that's a good point. That's a good point, but
so I guess
it seems crazy. It just seems like a crazy coincidence.
Yes,
that today, the one day he didn't go is the day he gets abducted. But you're right though. If he didn't do it, if he did it by himself every other day, and they were stalking him, why not any of those other days?
Right. I have no idea. And people have argued that it would have been more crowded with people going to work. No, because he's getting up at the ass crack of dawn to deliver papers. It's still going to be dark outside. So,
I mean, yeah, they deliver papers. I did not ever work there. I got hired there, and they explained to me the process, and they were like, you can pick up your papers anytime between 2 and 4. And I was like, in the fucking morning? And they were like, yeah. And then they explained to me that they were like, if you miss somebody that subscribes and they call to complain, you, no matter what you're doing or where you're at, you have to drop what you're doing, drive all the way back to the paper, pick up a paper, and go hand deliver it. And I was like, man, I don't think this is the job for me.
I just don't see my half-ass attitude working out in this situation.
No. Could you imagine? Like, I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning and picked up the papers by 4. Let's say I got them all delivered by 6, and then they call and they're like, Mr. Farmer there didn't get his paper. You're going to have to drive all the way back here and pick it up. Like, the fuck I am. I will send him 50 cents. He can get it at the damn store like everybody else.
I'd been like, no, I'll go put 50 cents in the newspaper machine and I'll go hand deliver him one of them. All right, so it's been theorized that Johnny wanted to show his parents that he was old enough to deliver the papers on his own. And he may have been thinking, I've done this route for over a year now. The only day that I've needed help was on Sundays. I'm about to turn 13, so I don't need anybody's help anymore.
Whatever. Yeah, he's an adult, man, at that point. Why would he need anybody's help?
Yeah. Whatever he was thinking, Johnny left the house around 5:45 a.m. with his bright yellow delivery bag, his red wagon that has Gosch stenciled on the back of it, and we'll post a picture of that, and his dog Gretchen. Now, Gretchen was a little Dotson weenie dog. Now, at around 5:50 a.m., Lawrence Headland said that Johnny cut through his backyard. Now, Mr. Headland lived at 101 45th Street, and this was not something out of the ordinary because Johnny would cut through because it was a straight shot to Ashworth Road. Now, the Des Moines Register would drop the bundles of papers at the corner of Ashworth and 42nd Street for the paper boys. Lawrence would later recall that he did not physically see Johnny that morning. He just heard him pulling the wagon through his yard. It's just something that he normally did around that time. So at around 5:55 a.m., our first eyewitness, who is Mike Seskus, He's 16 years old, and he's on the corner of Ashworth and 42nd Street getting his papers.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Well, several of the boys that pick up papers claim to see him.
Yes. Now, Mike said that Johnny was walking east on Ashworth towards him, and about that time, Mike sees a two-tone blue Ford Fairmont traveling west on Ashworth toward Johnny. The car drove past Johnny a little way and then stopped, backed up, and Mike says that he sees Johnny speak to the driver for about a minute. After the conversation, the car continued west away from Johnny, and Johnny continued towards the corner of Ashworth and 42nd Street.
Yeah, during the opening, I think I said an unidentified car. I meant to say unidentified man in a car, because they definitely identify the car. It's like a two-tone,
right? Something.
You probably already said it.
Ford Fairmont.
Yeah, Ford Fairmont. Yeah.
So now you may hear one.
Forgive my mistake. Okay.
The first
Not
one.
Perfect, y'all.
The first one in 6 years. So you may hear one of two scenarios when it comes to this Ford Fairmont. It's either A, it drives around the block, or B, it does a U-turn. Either way, it's back and it's driving east now on Ashworth toward the paper drop at the intersection of 42nd Street. So at the same time, all of this shit's going down. Johnny's heading this way and the car's going that way. 44-year-old John Rossi walked up to get his son's papers. Now, Rossi or the Rossies were headed out of town on vacation, and John was there to help his son make his deliveries so they could get out of town quicker. So this time, the same Ford Fairmont stops, and the driver, he stops right there where the papers are at. So you've got Mike Seskus, you've got Johnny, and now you've got this adult, John Rossi, all at the corner picking up papers. So this Ford stops, the driver swings, but now this is odd. They make a big deal to make sure that this is told in everything that I've read or listened to about this case. They say that the driver swings both legs out of the car and places his feet on the pavement, but never gets out of the seat.
Well, that's weird.
Yes.
That's weird as hell.
And he talks to Johnny again. Johnny then calls out to Mr. Rossi and asks if he can give the driver directions. Now, some reports state that the driver was asking how to get to 86th Street, and Johnny did not know how to get there. So John Rossi goes to speak to the man, and at the same time, Johnny's collecting his papers next to Mike Seskus and says, quote, "This guy's weird. Something's wrong with him. I'm scared and I'm going home," end quote. So John Rossi starts talking to the man and states that he was agitated, he was sweaty, he was talking real fast like he was on something, and he had a little bit of a slurred speech. He said he wasn't drunk. He makes a big deal out of saying that he wasn't drunk. The man swings his legs back into the car, shuts the door, and speeds off.
Well, you know somebody that's very adamant about saying they're not drunk?
Is it drunk?
It's somebody who's drunk.
Well, the way that, and my recommendation is going to be this documentary. They do an interview with Mr. Rossi. I think it was back in 2014 or 2015 when this documentary came out. And he said, well, he didn't come out and say it, but basically, if you read between the lines, this guy was on speed, meth, or cocaine. I mean, he said this guy was in overdrive, but he was real sweaty and he was speaking so fast that he had a little bit of a slurred speech. He said that he's been around people that drink all the time. He's been around functioning alcoholics and drunks, and he said this guy wasn't drunk. So,
well, it sounds like to me that it would probably be cocaine, just based on the time period, you know.
Yeah, I could see a speedball, but yeah, in the early 80s, cocaine, man.
Oh, cocaine, man.
So John Rossi starts, getting his papers, and then while all of this is going on, after the car speeds off, Johnny gets his papers, and he walks diagonally across the street from the corner of Ashworth and 42nd Street, heading south now down 42nd Street. Now, according to Mike Seskus, the driver of the Ford flashed the dome light inside the car on and off 3 times before he sped off.
It's at this point that a tall man walks out from behind some bushes on 42nd Street on the opposite side as Johnny. He then crosses the street and begins walking behind Johnny until they're both out of sight. Now, this is from Mike Seskis's point of view. And Mike was 16, I believe. I think I said that already, but anyway. So, as Johnny's heading away from the corner where he picked up his papers, and as the man has come out of the bushes following him, he passes two other paper boys. And they're on the opposite side of the street traveling north in the opposite direction as Johnny. So they're heading to pick up their papers. They are Kevin and Mark Boson. They exchange hellos with Johnny, but for whatever reason, they tell authorities and everybody that's investigated this that they do not see the man that Mike saw behind Johnny. Now, Johnny turns down Marquardt Street. So if Johnny is headed back to his house, like Mike Seska said, then this is the direction Johnny would have gone to get home. Now, Marquardt Street is where P.J. Smith lives. Now, P.J. was the same age as Johnny, and his bedroom was upstairs of the house that he lives in with his parents, looking at Marquardt Street. At approximately 6:15 a.m., P.J. stated that he was in bed and he hears the sound of a car door slamming. It slams so loud that he wakes him up, and he sits up in bed and he goes to the window. He states that he sees what he describes as a silver and black Ford Fairmont. Now, this is right around sunrise. Now, PJ says that the Ford, in his words, tears off, running the stop sign, and turns left. So as PJ is looking around, he sees Johnny's wagon sitting by the sidewalk. Now, shortly after all of this goes down, two other paper boys walk by, and they see his wagon as well. They also see Johnny's dog, Gretchen, tied to the wagon, but they do not see Johnny anywhere. So now we're looking at around 7 a.m. The Gosch's family phone begins to ring, and ring, and ring, and ring. And this wakes up Noreen and John Sr. People are beginning to phone them to tell them they've not received their Sunday paper. Now, Noreen assumes that Johnny had just overslept, so she goes to his room, opens the door to wake him up, and finds that he's not in his room. And when she goes to the garage, she sees that the wagon is not there. Dad, John Sr., realizes that he probably left without waking him because he wanted to do the route on his own from the conversation the previous night. Now, he thinks that he is probably just behind on the route, so he heads out to help Johnny catch up and finish the route. John Sr. finds the wagon full of newspapers with Gretchen, the dog, tied to it at the corner of Marquardt and 42nd Street. Now, this is right where P.J. Smith's house is at, and this is the same area that P.J. said he saw the wagon. John Sr. heads back home, and as soon as he gets there, he tells Noreen, Johnny's missing, call the police. Problem with calling the police in 1982 is they're trying to call out, and you've got all these people whining about their Sunday editions not arriving. So to stop the calls, John Sr. and gets a neighbor, and they head back to Johnny's wagon, and they deliver all the papers on the route. So that way, if Noreen gets a call from the cops or any call from Johnny, the phone's not tied up with people bitching about not getting their paper.
Which I find it weird that everyone on the paper route had their home phone number.
Well, from what I can gather, it's different from what you.
Requirement for the job, like
I think so.
Your number, so
I think that's what it was. I think different from what you explained. Your situation was they had the paper boy's number, so they called the paper boy first instead of calling the paper.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I was like 23, 24 when this occurred, so I was definitely driving.
You went on a bicycle and a wagon?
No, I didn't have a wagon, brother.
All right, so we get to introduce. I'm going to try to be nice when I say this because it's not going to be nice from this point forward. But we're going to introduce the West Des Moines Police Department. And by introduce, I want you to understand that that will probably be the nicest thing I say about that entire police department as we move forward.
You know, one thing that I've learned about by doing this podcast is just how much it's either incompetence, corruption, or cover up that we see from police. It's amazing. Like people put so much trust in law enforcement, and it's
a crapshoot.
Almost every case we've covered, and we're not law enforcement bashers. Like, there have been a few cases where, like, these guys did everything they could. They tried. They cared. I mean, I couldn't point out a case in particular, and I'm certain if you listen to all of our episodes, you won't hear it many times. But we have to call it like it is. A lot of these cases, the reason why they're unsolved is because law enforcement didn't do what they were supposed to for whatever reason.
And they shit the bed, and I hate to be cliche, but they shit the bed within the first 48 hours, and that's now scientifically proven. You've got the first 48 to get on something and find people. After that, your percentages go down so exponentially,
Yeah, but like 1985 is like what? Oh, well, we can't do anything until he's missing for 72 hours.
And nobody knows where that time frame came from.
Well, here's what I'm saying is there had to be something behind it, because
yeah, I would love to know.
You're not just going to make that up. You're not going to see statistics. This fucking dog, dude, I'm telling you, bro. I love this dog, and I'm glad I got him. But I'm telling you, I'm going to give him a knuckle sandwich one day.
I know how you can stop him from biting. You reach down there and bite his ear.
I bit his ear. He don't give a shit. He laughs at me.
Have you tried the water bottle in the face?
Dude, listen. We tried the water bottle. Water bottle worked. And then he figured out it was water.
And so now he's licking it.
And he's like, I like water, so maybe I'll just drink that shit. And then girlfriend gives me the idea of vinegar. Put a little vinegar in it. That son of a bitch likes vinegar.
I like my water with vinegar in it, Daddy.
So I'm like, okay, I know what'll stop this ass. I said, I'm going to put some hot sauce in it. It's a mixture, hot sauce and water, just Texas Pete, not even hot. And it's mixed with water. Well, guess what? That son of a bitch likes hot sauce. Sprayed him right in the face. Didn't mean to, but got it right in his eyes. And you know what he did? He just stopped what he was doing, licked it off the floor, and started biting my ass again.
Oh, man.
Anyway, I don't even know where the hell I was because of this damn dog.
Talking about 72-hour wait, where it came from. I'm thinking it had to be an average.
You're never going to get statistics about how many kids disappeared and then just wandered home within 72 hours. So, I mean, it's unfair for us to say, well, it's crazy not to have that kind of rule, because, again, we're not going to know how many kids came home safe. They don't put those statistics out.
That is true. But here's the thing, and we'll get into it when we get further in this case. I want to touch on what you said about police departments and stuff that we've covered that we just shit on. Here's the thing, and I hadn't made it real well known. And like Coach said, we're not cop bashers. My mother was in law enforcement. We lived in a neighborhood that had 3 Georgia State Patrol officers in it and one around the corner. And if you ain't followed the lady from Georgia on TikTok that talks about Georgia State patrols the state of Georgia, you should. Because Georgia State Patrol don't mess around. It's not like, I had a bad experience with law enforcement, I'm just going to shit on them the rest of my life. That's not it. Here's the problem. And Mr. Hartline in Arkansas put it in perspective the first time that I went out there and talked with him. It was in some of these small towns, which West Des Moines is not small, so I'm not giving them a pass. But in some of these small towns, Jimmy, who was the running back or the quarterback on the high school football team's dumber than a box of hair. The only thing he can do is get a job as a cop, and then somehow he doesn't mess up. He goes to work every day, and he finds himself damn near in charge of the whole county. And
that happened in my county, bro.
And you're out of your league. But like we said, once you get above your pay grade, once you have something come down the pipe, or you walk into a crime scene, or you have something happen, and you're like, oh shit, I really don't know what to do, then kick it up.
If I was the chief of police in my small ass town that I'm from, and I got a disappearance like this where there's absolutely no evidence, there's absolutely no way that I have the resources to solve this, I'm kicking it up to the GBI.
Right. Or at least the state police, calling the state police. The state police are going to call in the GBI. That's the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, for all of y'all that are not in the great state of Georgia.
We deal with law enforcement that have such egos.
They think God himself handed them their badge. That's what kills me. And you find that and that's the thing. There's a lot of great police officers out there. I know a lot of great police officers. And they, for one, are not egotistical to the point where they're not going to ask for help. They work for some people like that, or they work with some people like that. And I know a guy that I graduated high school with. His daddy was that way. He thought that God himself gave him his badge, and his son inherited that trait too. I just don't get it. I don't get it. And the thing is, it's kind of like all, when there's a bad teacher, that's all that's on the news. You don't see all the good teachers out there because we don't get the press. The good cops don't get the press.
What do you mean we don't get the press? You mean they don't get the press?
What you trying to say? I'm a bad teacher?
No, I'm saying we. I'm including myself. I would never call you out, single you out like that.
Yo, no.
We're going down together.
All right, so back to it. So, and Coach said it best. It's either incompetence, corruption, or cover-up.
Well, cover-up. It's like, cover-up and corruption kind of go hand in hand, but there can be some differences.
The incompetence in this case will lead you to see where it appears as if there is a cover-up.
And I think us two especially have tried, if you go back and you evaluate all our cases, we kind of lean towards corruption and cover-up, I think out of subconsciously just not wanting law enforcement to be this fucking stupid.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying?
Amen.
Like,
it's hard. I would rather believe in a cover-up and a conspiracy than I would that you are this fucking stupid and you have a badge.
Yeah. I think if you go back, you would hear me state, it's got to be corruption. There's no way they're this stupid. Like, I think I've said that exact phrase several times probably. But you're right. I think I'm right on this. I think we would rather believe in them covering it up than knowing they're this damn stupid.
Yeah, it's awful. It's borderline criminal. Now,
but trust me, I know some stupid ass cops though.
Oh yeah.
No offense to them. They're decent people, but when I went through my hometown, when I came back, after graduating from college and stuff, and I saw who was wearing badges, I was like, really? Really? You? Like, I remember playing football with you, brother. There's no reason for you to have a gun. You should be getting crayons for Christmas.
I done eat all them.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, man, I ate them, and I took a test. They said I'd failed, so I took it again, and next thing I knew, I had a gun and a car. If you can't recite the Miranda rights because you're too dumb to remember them, you shouldn't be a cop.
I agree.
And for a fact, you might not know them personally, but for a fact they print off the Miranda rights.
Oh, yeah, they give them a card. It's laminated.
And some of them have the card on them.
Yeah, and they have to hold it up as they're arresting you.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen on TV.
They can't memorize, 6 sentences. Like, are you fucking with me? Sorry.
This arrest is invalidated because you don't know the Miranda Act.
Like, I guess we did kind of police bash for the past couple minutes, but I mean,
no, we're stupid people bashing that are cops that we know. So there's a huge difference.
I know stupid ass teachers.
Oh yeah, we worked with plenty.
Several. Like, how the hell are you employed here?
How do you keep your job? Is what I asked.
I wouldn't trust you to park my car, and you're raising our future.
Yeah, you're teaching them about Macbeth. So Noreen calls the police, tells them that her son's missing. She needs to file a report. Just like Coach said, the officer takes the call, says someone will be out there shortly. They get the old shortly was 45 minutes.
And you got to point out the fact the police station was only a couple blocks away.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 2 streets over.
Yeah.
And if you can find the original police report, you'll notice that the times we've discussed are close to the ones in the report. That is because of Noreen Gosch, not the police doing their job. Noreen, during the 45 minutes that she was waiting on someone to come take her missing person report, started calling everybody that she could think of that may have seen Johnny. So,
and you got to give her a little. No, she didn't just call. She walked the streets, bro. And you got to commend her on that, just for the simple fact. And then I'm commending her for what she did, but I'm not bad mouthing anyone else. But I mean, sometimes you're so dumbstruck with fear and anxiety that you don't do anything. Some people would have sat there and waited on the cops.
Yeah.
For 24 straight hours and not even done anything. But she was Johnny on the spot.
So when the police finally show up, first thing they ask her is if Johnny had ever run away before. What? Noreen.
I mean, that's not.
But here's the problem with that.
A typical question, though.
Here's the problem with that.
There's way more incompetence to be had to fault them on that.
Yeah, there's going to be more incompetence coming, but here's the problem with that question. A, he's not run away because his wagon and his precious dog are left on a street corner.
Okay, that's fair. If a dog's left behind,
and that's his dog. Away. That was his dog. Like,
there's one thing. If I run away from my house as a 42-year-old obese man, first of all, I ain't running. But second of all, if I go away in my car, I'm taking my dog no matter how much he bites me. If he does, that son of a bitch will not stop biting me. I just want to point that out. But I'm still going to take him. I'm not going to leave him behind, especially tied up.
Well, and the other thing is this: he's got
was he tied up to a pole or
the wagon?
Itself?
He was tied to the wagon. The wagon was weighted down with Sunday papers.
Yeah, you will not leave your dog like that. You might leave him with a friend, leave him at home with your parents, but you are not leaving your precious dog tied to a wagon. So you're right; they should have taken it more seriously to begin with. Now, I concede my previous statement.
The officer takes the report and leaves. Noreen does not hear from anyone at the West Des Moines Police Department for another 8 hours.
Wow.
Now, it does not take a rocket scientist to deduce that Johnny was kidnapped by someone in the Ford Fairmont. Also, if he had run away, he would not have picked up his fucking papers, spoke to the other paper boys, or, like we previously have talked about, tied his precious dog to his wagon. Now, there is a documentary about the case that was released in 2014. It is titled Who Took Johnny? And that's going to be my recommendation for the next 2 weeks. At least we haven't decided if this is going to be a 2 or 3-parter. So Heater, I can't tell you when you message me. Heater's all butthurt on our multi-parts because he wants to save them and then listen to them all.
Don't you dare speak badly of one of our super fans who only wants to listen to our podcast and enjoy it just because he was curious about how many parts. That's a good question to get.
He put some bad mojo on us and wished that both of us would stump or whatever you want to say, our pinky toes repeatedly because we didn't tell him.
Okay, maybe he took it too far. That's not nice. And we are certainly nice to him. So kiss my ass. Kidding. I'm kidding.
All right. So the documentary is titled Who Took Johnny? It's on Netflix, or it was. Maybe it's not.
It still is.
If it's not, it's on Tubi.
No, it's on Netflix because I watched like 8 videos on YouTube until I was burned out. And then my girl was like, well, there's like a 2-hour documentary on Netflix if you want to watch that. And I was like, no. Like, I can't watch anymore. It's too terrible.
To double down on incompetence, one of the retired police officers in that documentary states on camera, quote, "We don't know what happened to Johnny Gosch. It's just like he vanished into thin air," end quote. No, dumbass, he was kidnapped. You know exactly what the fuck happened. And I just want to say this before we get any further. I know Noreen gets a lot of bad publicity out there. You have to understand that this is a very strong woman. Life's not been kind to her, and that's what my Job reference was at the beginning. She has kept the good fight. She could have easily just folded up her tent, raised her 2 kids after her husband died of cancer and the tornado tore through everything they owned, and she could have just withered away. But she didn't. She got remarried, and she has fought tooth and nail every single day since Johnny disappeared to keep the fight for him alive. And we'll get into some of her other great accomplishments as well later, but I just want to get that out there. I think this lady's Mount Rushmore of parents that have lost children and have championed the cause. Morgan Nick's mother is another one that's up there. Those are the only 2 that I can think of right off the top of my head, but I'm sure we can come up with some other ones. But moving forward. So Noreen begins to call friends. Like Coach said, she's pounding the pavement. She's calling family. She's getting a search together, and they're going to look for Johnny. So she rallies the troops. John Sr., he goes out. She stays at home hoping for a call. And unfortunately, the searchers couldn't find anything. Now, according to Noreen, the police arrived back at the Gosch house at approximately 3:15 p.m. They ask for a picture of Johnny and once again tell Noreen that Johnny probably just ran away. Noreen calls everyone that we discussed that saw Johnny that morning, and sure enough, the police had visited each of them. However, they did not write any of their statements down.
That's just not right. You can't tell me that is not incompetence, cover up, or corruption.
No, it's just
that is standard police procedure. If you take a statement from an eyewitness, you write it down, or at the very least record it.
Well, here's the thing. They talked to each of the boys that saw Johnny that morning. So you got Mike Seskus, you got the 2 boys that met him as he's coming down. They're passing each other on opposite sides of the streets. You got a 44-year-old man there picking up papers in John Rossi, and you don't take a damn statement from anybody. I could see like kind of taking cliff notes for the kid said this, but you've got an adult there.
Yeah. A 44-year-old man is quite capable of giving a pretty decent eyewitness testimony. We know eyewitness testimony sometimes is not as reliable as you want it to be, but at the very least, you still take the man's statement.
Right. Now, sometime later in the afternoon, Police Chief Orville, and he is one consonant away from being named Oral Cooney, arrives at the Gosch home and tells John Sr. and Noreen that his department would not consider Johnny a missing person until he had been missing for 72 hours. And it's been discussed on several podcasts. It's almost like Chief Cooney has a stopwatch, and he ain't doing shit in this case until that 72nd hour ticks by. He doubles down and tells John Sr. and Noreen that they needed to just relax, stay home, stop doing searches, and do not talk to the news.
That's ridiculous.
Johnny was a runaway and he'll be home soon is exactly what he told him. Noreen does not take this sitting down. The next day, roughly 1,000 people are convened, come together, whatever you want to say, and they start searching for Johnny. Like I said,
yeah, he's a runaway. He'll be back soon. He's only been missing for fucking 40 years.
Yeah. This search is orchestrated by Noreen and John Sr., and there were no police involved. Ne'er a one. To further solidify what a grand piece of human excrement Chief Cooney is, he goes to the search, gets his bullhorn out of his car, and starts telling people to go home. I would have put that bullhorn sideways up his Rudy 2 candy if that was my son.
Yeah.
Noreen and John Sr. have a parlay with one Chief Cooney and the head of the Criminal Investigation Department, Mr. Gene Meyer. Now, both Cooney and Meyer reiterate that the police are not getting involved until 72 hours has passed, unless Noreen and John Sr. could prove that Johnny was in danger. What the fuck? In danger? Just look at the scene. That's all I'm asking. Just look at the fucking scene and tell me that that's a runaway. You can't. There's no way you can do that.
No, I agree, man. I agree.
Noreen does her first press conference with a local news station on September the 7th, just 2 days after Johnny's abduction. Just as he had stated, Cooney has the police get involved on September the 8th, and September the 9th was the last large-scale search for Johnny. When you think that there's not a bigger douchebag in the government aspect of this, you are mistaken. I introduced you to the one Governor Robert Ray. He says, "Hold on, Chief Cooney, hold my beer. I will up your pettiness." The Gosches reach out to the governor's office and inquire about having National Guard helicopters / planes help with the search. Governor Ray has the audacity to tell Noreen that unless that they could prove that Johnny was in danger, it would cost them $750 an hour for a helicopter, and they would have to come up with that cash money on their own. What is absolutely mind-boggling is that according to Chief Cooney, Johnny is now an official missing person according to his little 72-hour time frame. So why in the holiest of hells would the governor's office tell the Gosches that they would be responsible for paying for a search that now has passed the 72-hour threshold? I'm at a loss, and I'm going to stay there because there's a lot of things that we're going to discuss. I'm just like, there's no words.
Not a lot. Not a lot can be said here.
Now, the Des Moines Register and another newspaper, along with the Gosches, put up $20,000 reward for information concerning Johnny's abduction. Soon after, the Gosches refinance their home and add another $40,000 to bring the reward total to $60,000. That is equivalent to just over $195,000 today. Now, on September 24th, 1982, Chief Cooney and Gene Meyer tell the Gosches that Johnny's case is now a cold case, since they were, quote, not getting anywhere with it, end quote. The police have literally done nothing. Everything that has been orchestrated in the search, everything has been done by Noreen and John Sr. So just so you're clear of what's going on, you've got a 12-year-old boy who's been abducted, and the local police department has done absolutely jack shit. And then they have the audacity to tell his family that since they've not found anything in just 19 days, they're going to move it to the cold case section. Undamn believable.
Yeah, for real.
So undeterred, Noreen hits the talk show circuit and makes appearances on Nightline, 2020, The Mike Douglas Show, Phil Donahue, etc. On October 11th, 1982, Noreen is invited to tell Johnny's story on Good Morning America. Now, this really brings national attention to the case. During every interview, the Gosches were sharing a description of the driver of the Ford Fairmont. They even paid out of their own pocket for a composite sketch to be done of the driver from the people that saw him. And they were circulating this composite with every interview they did. And I know this may come as a shock, but the West Des Moines Police Department refused to do a composite sketch or even have one done. But anyway, so the description of the driver is this. Dark complected / Hispanic, 5'9" tall, weighing approximately 170 pounds, early to mid 40s, black hair that was combed back, a black mustache, and beard stubble. Now, the car was also described including that it had an Iowa license plate. Now, John Rossi could not recall the license plate number, and he went as far as to have several hypnotic regression sessions to help him pull that license plate number out, but he just could not recall the license plate number, and from what I can gather, that haunts him to this day. Now, Noreen contacts the FBI office in Iowa and speaks with Ed Mull and David Oxler. She's like, I need help. And she is told that the FBI office is aware of Johnny's abduction, but again, unless she can prove that a crime had occurred, there was nothing they could do. I just don't fucking get that. The kid didn't run away.
I mean, we know that. But apparently they didn't.
So short of finding blood, so if there had been blood at the scene, I don't even know if they'd have done it then.
Yeah.
Anyway, she was told by Ed Mull and David Oxler that they had reached out to Chief Cooney offering their assistance, and he, shocker, denied their request. Now, Noreen eventually tells people when she is told that she needs to prove a crime or that there was not a crime committed, she says, quote, people say there's no crime, but I have no son, end quote. Now, Ken Wooden reaches out to Noreen, and Ken Wooden is running the National Coalition for Children's Justice at the time. He had been trying to educate everyone in America, especially small town America, about pedophilia and pedophiles. Now, he stated that all you have to do is look at the scene and you can tell that this was not a boy who ran away. He points to the fact, just like we did, that the dog was left tied to the wagon. If he had run away, he would have taken his dog with him. Now, in 1984, Noreen was able to champion the Johnny Gosch bill signed by the Iowa legislature that required law enforcement to immediately look into reports of missing children, thus doing away with the 72-hour waiting period. Noreen and John Walsh of America's Most Wanted testified in front of the Department of Justice, which resulted in the $10 million being allocated to form the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. So again, like Coach said, she's not sitting there withering away. She's out doing what she can do. So let us go ahead and put to bed the amazing Chief Cooney, the pillar of the community, retired on June 1st, 1983. There was some sarcasm in there if you didn't pick up on that. He's had to retire because he's had open heart surgery. Now, this was the story that was being told by the city of West Des Moines and the police department. In reality, a story broke in the news where 18 police officers, 14 of which were patrol officers, came forward to publicly tell citizens of all the problems that was going on or that were going on in the West Des Moines Police Department. 10 of those officers went on record, which is a huge deal. Anytime it's so shitty that a police officer is willing to put their name and badge number on something knowing that they're about to get some blowback, it's a big deal. Now, anytime government officials, especially police officers, are willing to state their names, you know shit's bad. All of the officers had taken complaints to Mayor George Mills and the city council to no avail. They alleged that Chief Cooney had beaten a handcuffed prisoner, compromised a burglary investigation involving one of his own sons, and threatened, harassed several other officers. Other allegations include smelling alcohol in the chief's breath when he was on duty, as well as seeing empty beer cans in his patrol car. They described the chief as a vengeful supervisor who encouraged officers to spy on each other and mock their union contracts. When contacted for a statement, Mayor George Mills stated that Chief Cooney has the support of the city council and the mayor's office. I know that's a shocker. So what are those two fuckers doing together? You got the mayor backing his ass up, so there's got to be some collusion going on. Now, in a separate article, it was brought to light that Chief Cooney was on tape, stating, "Yeah, I think the Gosches are ignorant. I think they're downright stupid, but I'm not going to state that on tape, but you can tell them I said that."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, got him on tape.
Wow.
When asked about her opinion of Chief Cooney, Noreen Gosch stated, quote, "I think he's a sawed-off stupid idiot," end quote. John Gosch stated, quote, "We drive by his house every now and then just to let him know we're still alive," end quote. After his retirement, Cooney was arrested at a local Target, that's Target, on shoplifting charges. Old Cooney was charged with stealing 2 blank VHS tapes valued at $6.99 each, 2 light switch plates valued at $3.99 each, 2 packages of screw hooks valued at 79 cents each, all from the Target store at 2309 Euclid Avenue.
What a man.
Yeah. Couldn't figure out, we're looking at roughly $22 worth of shit. You ain't got $22 in that great pension you're drawing? But anyway. So Clooney would plead guilty and be fined $25 plus court costs for a grand total of $48.75. However, they didn't see fit to revoke his pension, since it was just a 5th-degree misdemeanor. Orville Cooney would pass away in 2003, and from what I can gather, if you go to the memorial page that the funeral home still has up, there's some nice comments about old Chief Cooney. And by nice, I mean not nice. Now, people have thrown a lot of shade in Noreen's direction over the years. They point to, while her story has a lot of similarities each time she tells it, there's some slight differences as well. The question is it a new version because she's giving versions based off of eyewitness testimony, or retelling people who have come forward saying, hey, this is what I saw that day? Her story in 1982 is going to be different from her story in 1985 or 1987, etc. Another reason it's going to be different is because more people keep remembering small details. The lady has done a ton of interviews and is a grieving mother. Her story may have things that she had previously said left out, and then she's added new things as soon as she's getting this information. She has worked really hard to try to get justice for Johnny. So we're going to go through Noreen's version and what is the same leading up to the point where the boys gathered at the corner of 42nd Street and Ashworth to pick up the papers that were dropped off by the Des Moines Register. So buckle up, Buttercup. Here we go. I didn't hear it click. You buckled?
I'm buckled, bro.
All right, here we go. Johnny wakes up and leaves the house without his father. Takes his dog, his wagon, his paper bag, makes a shortcut through the neighbor's yard. As he's making his way to the point where he's going to pick up the newspaper, a car stops. The driver's seen talking to Johnny. After the conversation, Johnny continues on to pick up his paper, and the car heads the other direction. This is where he meets up with the other paper boys. As he's collecting his papers, this is where the story gets a little different in Noreen's version. The man pulls up to the corner where the boys are collecting their newspapers, and the man turns off the car's engine. He opens up the passenger door, slides over and puts his feet on the pavement. With slurred speech, he is asking for directions to 86th Street. It is at this point that Johnny turns to Mike and says, quote, I've got my papers loaded in the wagon. I'm scared. I'm getting out of here. I'm going home. End quote. Now, keep in mind that one of the reasons that Noreen's story may change slightly is that she's hearing this secondhand from a 16-year-old boy. So Johnny basically says something to the effect of, this guy's weird, this guy's creepy, I'm getting the heck out of here, I'm going home. Regardless of the semantics, this is where Johnny continues down the street after he's collected his papers. He's going to continue down that street, and some of the other boys start to leave as well. This is when Mike Seskus, the one that Johnny had told that he was freaked out and heading home, sees a man or sees the man come out of the bushes. Okay, he also sees the guy slide back over in the car and turn his dome light off 3 times. Now, Mike would go on to describe the man that he sees come out of the bushes as a tall man, about 6'3", and start following Johnny on the opposite side of the street and then crossing the street to get behind Johnny. Now, Noreen suspects that the clicking of the dome light was some kind of signal for the man to come out or start walking after Johnny. Now, there is a little slight rub on this dome light situation. In the older cars, the dome light had 3 modes, which it still has 3 modes for most cars, but it's either off, on, or it's operating when the door's open. But what's different now than it was back then, the dome light was controlled by the knob for the headlights, and it was 3 clicks. And you didn't know which one was which because you didn't use the damn thing all the time. So what I'm saying is, not saying this guy didn't have anything to do with it. I'm just saying you got to play devil's advocate. You got a guy that's probably coked out. He's alone. He's not actually, he may have not even been signaling an accomplice. He's just trying to turn off his car dome light because he's going to go and single-handedly abduct Johnny. By turning off the dome light, he keeps his face in the dark. We do know that Johnny saw him. We know that Mike Seskus and John Rossi both saw him.
That's a lot of witnesses to leave behind if you're going to just abduct a child. But again, if he was coked out of his mind, maybe he didn't know any better, maybe just determined to do what he did. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. And I kind of lend more credence to John Rossi's account because A, he's the adult there, and B, by profession, he's a lawyer. He tells Noreen and authorities that the man appeared to be all sped up like we discussed earlier. Mike and some of the other kids had said the man had slurred speech. John does not believe that the guy was drunk. He states that the guy seemed pretty alert, hyper, not sleepy at all. Another thing that John Rossi said about the guy when he gave the man's description was that the guy didn't appear to have just rolled out of bed. Now, this strikes Mr. Rossi as weird because it's 5:45, 5:30 in the morning. The guy appears to have either been up all night or been up for some time. So now Johnny is walking down the street, and this is at the point where the tall man comes walking from the bushes and starts walking behind Johnny. When Johnny turns down Marquardt Street, Mike loses sight of Johnny and the man following. Mike states that he hears a car door slam, and then he sees the same vehicle that had asked for directions earlier speed off, turning left, heading away from him and heading towards the interstate. Now, this all basically transpires in about a 10 to 15-minute window. Now, there are some other things about Noreen's story. She would later make reference to the fact that she believes that Johnny was shot or struck by something. In one interview, she stated that an eyewitness had seen Johnny on the ground and then he's picked up by 2 men, placed in the back of a blue vehicle, and the vehicle drives off. Now, keep in mind, this account is coming from an individual that kind of wakes up when they hear a scuffle and looks outside. Another sticking point for a lot of people is what P.J. Smith sees when he looked out his window. And this is where people piss me off. PJ describes a car that is silver and black. John Rossi and Mike Seskus said the car was blue two-tone. And I really don't see the problem here.
well, I mean, it's dark.
Right. And the car might have been under a street light for one and not the other.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're talking blue versus black in pitch black darkness.
Right.
It's not hard to go, hey, look for either.
Yeah. That would have been,
Instead of, you know what I'm saying? Like, look for either.
that's my thing going back to the West Des Moines Police Department. If you're going to be a total shitbird about the 72-hour thing, at least put out an APB or be on the lookout for, give the make and model of the car. And that's the thing. You've got an adult at the scene that is also a lawyer by profession, and you're not relying on his statement. Ah, fuck. But anyway. Okay. So the other statement Noreen makes is that the car that sped off met up with a white van. Now, they basically take Johnny out of the car and put him into this said white van. Now, keep in mind, all of the eyewitness statements taken in September of 1982 never mentioned seeing Johnny on the ground. None of them mentioned seeing two men throwing his body into a vehicle, and none of them mentioned seeing a white van or a van of any sorts. Keep this van account, however, in your mind because it's going to pop up later, probably in part 2. Now, I don't believe that Johnny went quietly. Johnny was a big boy for his age. At 12, almost 13, he was 5 foot tall.
Yeah, but if they had a gun or a knife, they'd make a sound and it's over.
True.
True.
And if we believe what Mike said, Johnny's already freaked out, headed home, and on high alert. So, like you said, he's going to have to be presented with the threat of bodily harm or maybe threat to his dog. Now, caveat, Noreen, to finance this crusade that she's on, started selling chocolate bars with Johnny's missing information on it. And in just 1 year, I don't know which year it was, but she sold it for multiple years. I want to say it was the second year that she was in business. She sold over 400,000 chocolate bars. So, like I said, this lady is determined. A lot of people call her gullible because of some things that come up later in the story. But if you watch that documentary, what she's been able to do and what she does for missing children now or back, I think she's still alive. In 2014 and 2015, they show a recent little girl had disappeared or been taken or something like that. And Noreen goes and talks to the family kind of to tell them what they're feeling, just kind of validates what they're feeling is normal. She doesn't have to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Do I believe every word that comes out of Noreen's mouth? No, I don't. I think there's been a lot of people in her past that have tried to take advantage of her. We'll discuss some of them pieces of shit in part 2. But for the whole of it, I think Noreen's a saint, to be honest with you. Life's dealt her a shitty hand, and she just keeps going back. She's like, fuck it. Let's just go again.
I know we ain't going to cover it today, but I want to believe her.
I do too, man. God, I do too.
I want to believe everything she's said.
Yeah, I do too.
But we'll talk about it in part 2, but the reality of it, if what she claims is true, the reality of that is fucking horrible.
Yeah, we kind of kept this one. We hinted around at some things, but part 2 will come with a extra disclaimer that if you are not willing to discuss pedophilia or pedophiles with your children, do not let them listen to that part. So as you can tell, this is going to wrap up part 1. We're going to come back at you next week with part 2. And like I said earlier, we don't know about whether or not we're going to have a part 3 because the further we get into this thing, the further away from Johnny's story we get. At a certain point, it no longer becomes about Johnny Gosch. It turns into his investigation has led to other things, and we have to probably hit on some of those things so that you understand.
This is a deep, deep well.
Yes.
Of terrible fucking things.
Horrible shit. So, like I said earlier, my recommendation is going to be that documentary, Who Took Johnny? You can search for it. If you have a Vizio TV, the search function on Vizio TVs is the greatest search function ever because you just type in whatever you're looking for, movie, TV show, whatever, and it will pop up what it is and where you can find it. And it will list multiple apps, multiple channels, and some of them are free and some of them you have to pay for. And I love that shit. So you got a recommendation there, Slapnut?
Well, I'm going to go just something a little more wholesome. It's an older movie I watched last night that I forgot how much I loved it.
Secondhand Lines.
Huh?
Secondhand Lines.
It's funny you mentioned that. I never saw it until last week.
Dude, it's the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life. I love that movie.
It's an amazing movie. Don't get me wrong, but I never watched it. And the people that I were with when they mentioned it, and I said I never saw it, they said, "Well, fuck that.
We're
watch it right now. Sit your happy ass down and make yourself comfortable for the next hour and 40 minutes or so. And we want you to shut up, and we'll ask you questions when it's over." And it was a great movie. It was. I loved it. It was a good movie. I like Michael Caine. I like Robert Duvall. Good movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wholesome, it's a great movie. But anyway, go ahead. Your wholesome movie. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's called K-Pax. It's a good-ass movie. It's got Kevin Spacey in it, which kind of sucks now. And it's got Jeff Bridges in it. So what it is Kevin Spacey claims to be an alien, and they put his ass in a psych ward.
I think I remember this.
And through various interviews from Jeff Bridges and certain events that happen, they start questioning whether or not that sumbitch really is an alien.
I think I do remember this.
It's really good. Really good. I own all the books. There's actually
But have you read them?
I own three, part 1, 2, and 3. I don't know if he's put out a part 4 or not, but I read all 3 of them, and they were really good.
But have you read them?
No, I actually read them.
Unlike the Ray Rivera disappearance book.
No, I still haven't read that one.
Hey, we got some new decals, boys and girls, that we got. It's not the typical Sasquatch with mystery, murders, and mayhem. It is our...
Excuse me.
Good God Almighty.
Sorry.
Trying to have a conversation over here. It is our Mysterious Brews established date, and then underneath it, it's our tagline, "From a deep, dark, dank, moist basement." So it's got a QR code that goes directly to our Spotify channel, so it'll open up Spotify for you. So if you know of any place that needs one of them, let us know. We'll send them out. They're $3 each, or 4 for $10. Coach, you got anything else?
I don't.
Deuces.